Welcome to Tuesday Newsday, your #1 resource for the entire week's worth of VR news. One of the craziest things to ever happen to the consumer VR industry just occurred this week, and I gotta say, I truly believe that VR just leveled up big time, and we really gotta talk about it. Plus, Facebook teaches a bunch of, in their words, amazing VR games, and just in general, this is a jam-packed episode, so let's just get right into the news. Let's kickstart this week by talking about Kickstarter. Tundra Labs, a company that has worked closely with Valve and other VR companies on specifically laser tracking, announced months ago that they would be releasing their own base station tracked tracker akin to the HTC Vive tracker, so you can accomplish things like full body tracking. Now, that itself is kind of old news, but the Kickstarter for the Tundra tracker just went live a couple days ago, and kind of to my surprise, the Kickstarter was massively successful, pulling in at this time $655,000, all within 48 hours, and their goal was only $250,000, so they smashed it. And this is really exciting to me. I love full body tracking, I use it almost every day, and Tundra Labs comes into a segment that has been really stagnant and neglected for years. I mean, the only way to get affordable laser tracked full body tracking was to buy Vive trackers. There was nobody else that made anything like it. And Tundra Labs has proven to the world that full body tracking is, in fact, something that we want as VR enthusiasts, and it's something that we'll pay for. Unfortunately, it's not like you're getting some crazy good deal or discount with the Tundra trackers. Historically, Vive trackers have cost around $300 for 3 trackers, which is the exact same cost as 3 Tundra trackers. But you have to take into account the much smaller size, better battery life, and they're far lighter. Almost more excitingly is the new super wireless dongle, as they call it, which if you've used full body tracking before, you'll know just how valuable these little Watchman dongles are. You need one for every single tracker, and you almost can't buy them individually. Well, that's now a thing of the past. Tundra Labs has created a dongle that's included with the trackers that will either connect to 3, 5, or 7 Steam VR devices, depending on the tier purchased. Small innovation, but huge for the user. I've mentioned it before, but I do actually have a Tundra tracker in my hands right now, and I'm planning on releasing a video later this week on it. So if you're interested in seeing it and how they perform firsthand, stay tuned for that. Steam VR received a pretty massive update in anticipation for its Steam VR 2.0 release that was planned by Valve to be released last year. We are still on 1.0, but between the OpenXR support update last month and updates like this update allows you to do things like open Twitch chat windows or Discord windows all in VR natively within Steam VR itself. No outside programs like OVR Toolkit needed. Better performance, quicker window navigation, and easier streaming. This is something I use all the time, so this update is absolutely welcome for me. Now, I want to talk about the Quest 2 real quick as an introduction to our main topic today. 2 things recently happened that potentially redefine how the entire world looks at VR right now. The Oculus Quest 2 has been around for 6 months now, half a year. That may feel like a long period of time, but really it isn't, especially compared to how long VR has really been around in general. And I know this is going to be a serious point of contention, but hear me out. I believe at this point right now, virtual reality has officially moved from being a hyper niche early adopter tech segment to early mainstream. Of course, we're not at PlayStation 4 levels of sales anywhere. That's not the kind of mainstream I'm talking about, but there's a serious argument to be made that VR is mainstream now. And here's my first point. In 6 months, the Oculus Quest 2 has sold more VR headsets than the original Oculus Quest did in 18 months. It's also sold more than the Rift S did in 18 months. And I'm gonna keep going because it's also sold more headsets than the Oculus Rift did in its entire 3-year lifespan, or also more than the Oculus Go. But what if I told you in 6 months, the Oculus Quest 2 not only outsold all of these headsets individually, but according to Andrew Bosworth, Vice President of Facebook Reality Labs, the Oculus Quest 2 has outsold every Oculus VR headset combined ever in just 6 months. That is exponential growth. And Boz believes, as I do, that these are clear signs that we're no longer in the early adopter phase. Of course, we're all still VR pioneers and we're all still early adopters. sectors. But VR is everywhere, and it's bigger than it's ever been. Software sales are through the roof. Hardware sales are insane, as I just laid out. I did not expect to be saying this now. I expected to say this in 2 years. But this is the first glimpse into truly mainstream VR. This is a moment to cherish and to be excited about. And even if you hate Facebook and the Quest 2, I believe that this explosion of VR interest, largely because of the Quest 2, has kicked into gear so many adjacent VR projects that will continue to change the industry, like the PSVR 2 that I'm sure was announced a little earlier than expected, and other projects that we just don't know about yet. Even if you don't like Facebook, it's hard to deny the tremendous impact that they've had over the past few years in the industry. A headset selling more in 6 months than the entire history of a company's sales, that means something. And I've got more evidence. I'm sure you all know Recroom. It's one of the most popular VR social applications, and even for me, it's had a large impact in my life. But it's having an even bigger impact on VR applications, and it's now being called a unicorn. And this is huge for everything related to virtual reality, or AR, or really the entire industry together. Recroom started as a Steam VR only application and quickly grew to be a bustling VR community. Then it went multi-platform, and over time you could pretty much play Recroom on anything, any VR headset almost, a PC, Xbox, PlayStation, even an iPhone. This led to an explosion of high quality content made by the community, and eventually led to a very active player base that's huge. Now, not everyone that plays Recroom is in VR, but the thing is, everyone wants to be in VR in Recroom. Yeah, some kid may start playing Recroom on their phone, but the end goal, if you enjoy it, is to experience it in VR like it's meant to be. Now, Recroom is a very social game, and admittedly, the pandemic has had a huge impact on the player base and revenue, seeing revenue increase by 566% and the player base triple, but I haven't hit the big part yet. Recroom, a small, humble company that started just a few years ago with a VR application that only a few hundred people played, has just been valued at $1.25 billion. To give you an idea, Facebook bought the entirety of Oculus for $2 billion. So you can imagine, this is kind of a big deal. This hasn't happened for a VR company before, and on top of that, the company raised $100 million in funding recently to scale up their operations of Recroom entirely. And some people may be angry that Recroom sold out to consoles and flat screen in chase of competing with Roblox. But in my opinion, a good VR application having a good flat screen option brings that VR application to the homes of everyone that doesn't have a VR headset yet. And maybe that'll be the thing that incentivizes them to finally get a headset. I've seen it happen over and over again in VR chat, and Recroom is no different. You start on a flat screen and you end up with a VR headset on. It's just hitting a lot more people in a totally different demographic. I don't want to go on too long about this, but what I can say is I personally am declaring it, at least in my mind. It's just barely, and we're still very, very much so in the early days, so do not get comfortable. But VR just got its first real healthy taste of being mainstream, and goddamn, does it taste good. But now it's time for a meme break! VR noobs in Richie's Plank experience be like,
Peter Pan.
You did?
I mean, you're not wrong. And now, back to the news. Facebook has been teasing a ton of new games, and they should be. VR is doing really well sales-wise right now, but I am very worried because right now in 2021, I don't see many VR games that are announced that I'm excited about besides a few indie projects like Zenith or Veil. But the big games are supposedly coming, and we're talking about Assassin's Creed, Splinter Cell, and who knows what else. And this is what Mike Duran, director of production at Facebook Reality Labs, had to say, quote, "The things that are coming in the next 3, 5, 7 years are amazing, and I wish I could talk to you about them right now, and I wish I could tell you all the great partners we have signed up that are going to blow people away when we're finally allowed to talk about them," end quote. So according to Facebook, the next software projects will blow everyone away. Now, we don't have details, so it's incredibly hard to really hype anything up or to get too excited, but these are some very strong words to be coming from Facebook in a big interview. I will say though, VR is having a huge upswing of momentum right now, and there's a great back catalog of games to play, but unless we get more games and announcements soon for really good VR games, either Quest or PC VR, the whole VR industry will hit a very hard spot, and I don't want that to happen. The lack of software and good VR games has always been virtual reality's worst attribute, and that's no different today or tomorrow or the next day. So these groundbreaking games couldn't come soon enough, and I'm hoping that we'll hear more soon. But going back to indie developers, there's always huge hope for something special to come out of a small studio, and I've got one here. A lot of people have asked me in the past what my absolute favorite side quest game is or was, and it's pretty much always been Hand Physics Lab. And it makes sense. The game, or experience I guess, was one of the first to really utilize hand tracking on the Quest and eventually the Quest 2, and it's done fantastically. Playing Jenga or finger painting or having more wacky things happen, it's always been a blast. But I know since it's always been a side quest application, not nearly as many people have been able to enjoy it. Well, Hand Physics Lab is receiving a full launch on the Oculus Store on April 1st. Now, there aren't really many games out there that utilize hand tracking, and even fewer that do it well, but Hand Physics Lab is one of them. And to be honest, this is the game that, for me at least, made me truly believe in hand tracking as a viable way to play games within VR right now. You don't always need a controller. So, April 1st, check it out. Staying on the topic of the Quest Store, community favorite Pavlov will be coming to the App Lab in beta form for free later this year, confirmed by Dave Vills, lead developer of Pavlov. The Quest version of Pavlov has always been side quest only, but that will change, and eventually it'll end up on the full Quest Store for $24.99, at least as long as it's approved. However, it will not be cross-play with PC. Instead, it will be multi-platform with PSVR. Not current PSVR, but PSVR 2. So in a way, Pavlov Shack, the version for Quest and PSVR 2, is the first confirmed PSVR 2 title. But now it's time for question of the week. From Gemplix. Have you ever gotten VR info that you couldn't share immediately, or even info that you have now but can't disclose? And yeah, of course, there are NDAs and embargoes and other things, and sometimes a company will tell me what they're planning on doing before it happens, so I can properly prep a video or topic within a video to be released in a timely manner. This doesn't happen very often for big projects like VR headsets from HTC or anything. I'm usually seeing those announcements at the same time as everyone else. But it's a very normal thing for games. Almost every single game that releases has a defined embargo date with an NDA or non-disclosure agreement. And if you post content before that date, you either just made a lot of enemies or you may just get sued, but it's usually no issue. And that's question of the week. Don't forget to leave your own below. I may just answer yours next. I will be streaming today after this video, so stop on by and say what's up. I'd love to see you there. Also, join up on my Discord server for one of the best VR communities on the planet. I want to thank all of my Patreon supporters, especially my Omegas, like Anders, Atomally, Benji, Biz, CPCJ79, Decadom, Furtrap, Fusion Oak, HCG Randon, I'm Naku, John, KR, Lucid VR, Mudking, Ridbo, Skirt Cobain, That Brockeye, Very Evil Shadow, and Zale. I couldn't do any of this without you. Don't forget to like this video if you loved it, subscribe if you want more of this, and hit that freaking bell if you just can't live without it. Much love, Thrill out.